Hello guys, this is Terry from Genki Gaming TV, and for today's video, it's for Yokai Watch ShadowSide episode 40, and I have to say, wow, episode 40, it feels like just yesterday I was on episode 1 starting off this journey, but today's episode is called Looking Back, Dark Night, or Furikaire ba Ankoku Kishi. And I have to say, first off, I loved this episode. I thought it was really well planned, and the emotion of the characters all really worked well, and the animations were all rather smooth. And I have to say, overall, that was probably one of the better episodes plot-wise. But let's dive into it. And this episode starts off with one of Natsume's classmates, Nikado-kun. And he loves video games, and seems to like games in general. And he's actually at the start of the episode playing a game called VR Records Wars, or Records of War. And as things started to transition for the first scene, it looks like he was battling against a friend. And after the battle, a yokai showed up behind him. And his friend's name was Shun. At least I believe it was Shun. And that's how our episode really starts. The Dark Knight just shows up behind him and just strikes him down with his sword. But as we transition into the episode itself, Natsume was greeted by our boy Haruya, and he's like, "Hello, Hime, I thought I would see you in the morning, Hime. And everyone's looking suspiciously at her and him, and she's like, "No, go off to class or something." And then Ayame comes by and basically says, "Oh, it seems like you're having a tough morning already." Or she said something the equivalent of that. Like, the situation for Natsume is pretty tough or difficult. And as let's transition on through that scene, we transition to our detective agency, where everyone is just kind of gathered around, kind of reacting to Nikado-kun, basically what happened at school, where Nikado kind of freaks out a little bit and basically says he doesn't want to play the VR game Records of War. So they figured they better look into the game itself on the forums, and they find out that a knight wearing a dark cloak and with a sword and shield has been basically attacking players. Basically any player who has if you win against an opponent, this knight shows up and basically kind of attacks. So as this goes on, they go and talk to Nikado. Nikado basically explains the situation at hand, that he doesn't want to deal with virtual reality or really games. He was frightened half to death because the knight stabbed him through the chest, but he woke up and seemed like everything was fine, but he was still panicked and didn't want to play anything. And I can kind of understand that after a traumatic event, or maybe even after something sad comes up in our lives, we don't want to do anything that's our normal, especially if it's associated with that memory. But as things went on, he said, maybe you should go to my friend Shun's apartment to see if he is okay as well, because I've not heard from Shun. So they go to Shun's apartment. Michi, who is my second or third favorite character in the entire anime, basically decides that he wants to hammer in the door like Usopp from One Piece. I'm making a blatant reference because they're both like gag characters in a sense. So Michi has his own version of the 10-ton hammer that Usopp has. I feel like that was a secret One Piece reference, but I'm gonna let that go. And Akinori just opens the door normally without a key because Shun did not lock the door and had the VR headset on and mistaken the gang as enemies. And this caused him to press on the VR headset, causing it to transition from, I believe, blue to red, causing the VR world to spread into the apartment and around them. And the Dark Knight shows up, and basically the situation gets dire because other knights appear and they all get ready to attack our detective agency gang. So everyone starts to run. Hime trips. Natsume summons ShadowSide Jibanyan, who basically takes down Shun, knocking the headset off, causing the VR world to dissipate or to disappear. And Shun, after the headset had fallen off, said, "What am I doing? What's going on here?" And it seems like the yokai inspirits you, causing you to be temporarily stuck in the VR world, in a sense, if you want to really think of the situation, because it seems as if he's been playing that since the event, which would explain the radio silence and not leaving his house being unlocked. So as this all goes on, and with them talking to Shun and him explaining that the situation that basically Nikado kind of explained, and then they transition back to the clubhouse where they decide that Keisuke is going to be their bait again. I feel so bad for him. Better yet, I don't want to play as Natsume in Yokai Watch 4. I want to play as Keisuke, and I want to be the one saving people. Maybe that's why the game's been delayed, for Keisuke and Michi to get buffed. But that is beside the point. Let's dive further into this. So Keisuke really hesitant, really scared, puts on the VR headset with the VR controllers, and then everyone else kind of joins him. Keisuke's original armor, along with Toma's, kind of looks like a armor reference from a game like Dragon Quest or even Fantasy Life. It seemed like the same stylization of armor and helmet, while Natsume's armor is a wee bit symbolic of maybe something akin to maybe a little bit Saint Seiya, along with a little bit of modern MMORPG armor stylization for a ranger. And Akinori's, it's kind of like a generic armor set. And Hime's was a little bit unique, but I couldn't really place where it was from. Possibly Fantasy Life, considering I've not played through a lot of that game. So they decided to have Keisuke in Toma battle. So the battle starts off, they kind of clash back and forth a little bit before Toma gets the upper hand by knocking Keisuke back. Keisuke increases his armor size. Ayame is impressed, Natsume not so much. His armor changes from that Dragon Quest stylization of armor to something more akin to Shovel Knight. But at the end of the day, Toma defeats him, causing the Dark Knight to appear. The Dark Knight and Toma clash a little bit, but Toma is ultimately defeated as Toma, so he has to use his Ogre Watch to become Goemon. Goemon spins with his swords and basically gets deflected and knocked down and defeated. So as this is going on, Natsume decides to summon Robonyan, and Robonyan 00 is able to efficiently match the Dark Knight power for power in their clash, which is rather interesting. They're clashing back and forth, and then Robonyan gets the upper hand and rocket punches the Dark Knight. Or Darkness. I guess that's how they're going to localize the ShadowSide name, Darkness, while the light side is Shield of Brightness. But basically what happened is the rocket punch defeated him. He transitioned back to just being the shield itself. And then the shield gives us this immense backstory that the Shield of Brightness was a golden shield that was wielded by an ancient king during a war. However, the king and his troops eventually fell to an onslaught of arrows. And the king basically engraved a tiny small message on the bottom of the shield with a small blade, basically saying the Shield of Brightness. So we then transition to another scene of Natsume and Keisuke playing a VR game together, and then they see the king, the Shield of Brightness and Robonyan 00 clashing and training. I guess this is reflecting their newly found and newly forged friendship, which is rather nice because we oftentimes don't see very many yokai that have been turned into arcs together, except for on special episodes or little mini clips. I mean, I know you guys are going to point out Whisper Jr., Michi, Fudomio Boy being together, and you're probably going to point out Koma-san and Komajiro, but those are the only ones. We don't oftentimes see yokai who are arcs together, with the exception of certain episodes where they're really helping out. And I know you guys are going to point out the fact that they both were a part of the episode to begin with, but I feel like this implies that they're going to be training together and being together more often, maybe a little bit akin to the Koma-san Komajiro situation, where they're kind of brothers. I believe that the Shield of Brightness and Robonyan 00 are going to be kind of like brothers in arms, if you want to go in that direction, that they're going to be training to get stronger together in the virtual world. It makes some sense that for some of the yokai that have become arcs under Natsume and our crew or detective agency's control to be training and not just be with the people who they've had memories of or who they've been associated with, like Pakun at the little flower shop, or Mashilo Barber at a barber. But that's it for the episode review. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and or evening. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Bye for now.